Hi, my name is Dr. Nicole, and today we're going to be reviewing a couple functional shoulder exercises that I love and give to many of my patients. When we're training in the gym or for some sport, oftentimes we can be missing some of these connecting pieces that allow us to use all of the range of the shoulder and therefore protect some of its stabilizers from injury or overuse. Some of those areas might be the rotator cuff, the shoulder blade, the neck even. Nerve injuries, lots of things that happen in and around this area are mediated by a lack of control on where forces are going. With the two exercises we're going to review today across multiple progressions, this covers a lot of our bases. I use these for warm-ups perpetually for myself and for my clients without goal of discontinuing them or using them only for a temporary period. So you can keep these in your toolbox forever, whether you have any shoulder pain dysfunction or otherwise feel great. If you do have shoulder pain, please, of course, check with a medical provider or physical therapist before trying them, or especially if they offer you any pain. This video is not to be replaced with personalized medical care. We're going to start with a shoulder teacup, which we're going to do in multiple parts. We're going to start with a half shoulder teacup, and then we're going to move into a full and a reverse. So there's 3 stages to this movement. Normally, if you look up shoulder teacups, there's a lot of movement going on in people's torsos, necks, heads, bodies in general. What we're mainly aiming for is a movement that only occurs at the shoulder here, where it creases and combines or connects to the torso and the shoulder blade. I've got a nice view of my shoulder blades featured here, so I'll also show how all these movements affect the movement of the back, the spine, the shoulder blade, and not just from the front. We're going to start with a 2.5 pound plate that I've got here. We're not going to grip it in any form nor wrap our fingers around the edge. We're going to hold it as if we're a waiter with a platter out to the side. From here, again, we're looking to maintain a really stable and controlled center. And then this weight is going to float through this nice gap hole next to the side of our bodies and return out to our side. A little bit easier would be trying to pass by my hip bone, keeping the plate horizontal the whole time. And a little bit harder would be passing a little bit higher up by my rib cage. What we're looking to avoid is any sort of a shrug, roll, movement, twist, turn happening from the torso or the shoulder blade. And then again, really we're spinning this arm bone in place and returning. You can think about slightly kind of pulling back your shoulder as you do this movement to help you think of where it should not come from, but we shouldn't really be like pinching or pinning our shoulder blade into place. Just a little bit of a broad chest feeling gets us where we need to go. As we then move through this exercise from more than one angle, we're warming up the shoulder. Even though I do these all the time, I still start with half shoulder teacups because it's just a little bit more responsible for the shoulder to gradually increase loads, especially when we're working on small stabilizing muscles and not jumping immediately to something a lot more intense like the full range with reverse. If we're going to progress this into a full shoulder teacup, we're going to come into the same position, still being mindful of these areas compensating or their desire to compensate. And then the plate is going to move around our head and back to where we start. We're going to do that a handful of times, really nice and slow, because it always looks crazier than it feels. Once you're in this position of our half teacup, we're coming around our face, the back of your head, and then you'll naturally fall back into your start position. Your elbow will bend. Your shoulder blade will now move, because as we cross into the overhead range, we have to use our shoulder blade to get there, but we're supposed to. We're just not supposed to use it to compensate movements that occur down here. So I do, let's say, 2 or 3 more. Whoop. Coming back down and in. If you almost drop the plate like I did, that's really normal. It actually means you're working at a good level of difficulty for yourself, where you're working at the edges of what you can control. If you feel like you need to grip it or you're going to drop it on every repetition, that's a sign that we need to move back into easier variations. Or like we said before, if there's clicking, pinching pain, rolling or compensations, tension, guarding, clenching of the jaw or the face. So just be mindful on how your body wants to take these movements and try to make sure they can still be performed with a quality and goal of control from the shoulder that we're moving, Again, just showing how the shoulder blade does get involved on this movement. And then our last progression here is looking at the reversal. So instead of coming under and through, where we can start if we'd like to, we're going to reverse back to where we started, wrap around the back of the head, and then come around to our start position. Again, always looks crazier than it actually is. Behind the head, around the face, down and out, and reverse from our half shoulder teacup position. One more for me. Around, down and through. You can see my torso's moving just a tad here, which is okay as we're learning a movement, but my goal is to really try to avoid it. And as long as I'm getting, again, no clicking, pinching pain, I feel everything just like a nice, warm, juicy exercise to prepare for other movements, then we're in the clear. If you start feeling that anything's going wacky there, you're dropping the weight on every single rep, you're getting pinching or other pain, please stop there and then return to an easier progression or save the exercise for the end of your workout. One more time here for the reverse from the back view. We're coming up and around the face, starting at the back of the head, out to the side, and returning to our normal position. Again, not gripping or holding the weight in any form, just balancing it like a waiter with a platter. For the next variation, we're gonna do swimmers. Normally I start with these unweighted all the time. I start with my teacups always weighted, so we have something that we can think about controlling. And we just start with the smaller movement of the half teacup instead of starting with no weight. For the swimmers, I like to start with no weight and just practice the movement. This is a very common exercise to feel clicking or pinching in, which is not what we're looking for. So starting with no weight gives us an opportunity to double check ourselves and make sure that it's coming from the right place with the right sensation. This exercise is much more targeted at our shoulder blade, especially across this inside edge, really in helping us navigate the function and the purpose of the shoulder blade. Looking at the shoulder from the back, as we move our arm out to the side, the shoulder blade shouldn't move very much because its job hasn't really yet started. But as we try to create an overhead movement with full range, our shoulder blade needs to change its position and open up the joint surface so that we can get here. And then as we go back down, the shoulder blade should move at the same rate as the arm, and then from here down, really just the arm brings us back into our neutral position. This is what we're practicing with the swimmers. From a standing position, the easiest variation to start with, gravity is pushing us downwards, so you're not going to get as much work on the shoulder blade as compared to our next variation where we'll be taking a forward lean position. But from here we can really practice the movement. You can start with one arm, you can start with both at the same time. I will demonstrate on both so you can see how this movement looks when we combine it all together, but again, feel free to start on just one side. Starting with my hands at my sides, we're going to bring our palms to the front, thumbs to the ceiling, and try to reach out as if you were being stretched to the walls, to the sides of you, to help us engage the shoulder blades in a more functional range. What normally wants to happen is a little bit of this, where your shoulder blades kind of scoop and dump together, especially as we cross the mid-range. But what we're really looking for is the controlled, gentle pacing of the movement. If we want to take it a step further in the range, we'll actually start at our lower back and include some of the rotation into this movement, which starts completely from the elbow and then begins to rotate the shoulders for us to come up overhead. We'll then reverse ourselves back into this position and repeat a few times. You may feel some shaking, wiggling in the shoulder. You may not feel like you can come up completely overhead and you get stuck, or you start to see different movements come from your neck or your body otherwise. Make sure that you go within what works for you, where your shoulders have range of motion for right now. This is not an exercise to build range of motion. This is an exercise to use our range of motion. If you feel stiff and tight and stuck in your shoulders, you'll want to look at some other resources before coming to the progressions of additional range on this exercise, so that we're not exposing you to undue risk for a shoulder injury or rotator cuff tear or pinch, ache otherwise. For the variation, to challenge these shoulder blades a little bit more, we're going to add a little bit of weight. I'm going to demonstrate with my 2.5-pound plate so that we're using the same equipment as we did before, but you can always exchange this for mini dumbbells, can of beans, a water bottle. It doesn't have to be some formal type of weight. It can be really any type of weight that we're looking to load. Now when we take our forward lean, we're going to allow our knees to bend and our hips to sit back a little so that we're not just stressing out our back. If I lean forwards like this, my back is taking all this load. But if we sit back and allow ourselves to take almost like a mini squat, that goes away because we're loading this movement now in our hips. Starting at the same place, my hands by my sides, we're gonna reach out towards the sides of the room, come up towards our ears, being mindful that neither our neck nor our rib cage is allowed to steal any of this movement. If you feel like as you come up, you lose control and we start to get this kind of proud chest finishing position, please lower the weight or slow down the movement so that you can avoid using stuff that we're not supposed to. You can also switch, instead of doing both arms at the same time, to do just one. And when we do just one side, we can either use our hand, a bench, a table, something for a little bit of support, so we can really focus on the movement as it comes from the arm. If we show this movement from the back, also adding in the rotation, we're going to reach out towards the side of the room as we come up and overhead, and then work our way back into this position. You may still feel part of your shoulder out here doing the work, but the main work should really come from the shoulder blade. If you want to progress this movement a little bit extra, we can do it without additional support or in some sort of a plank position so that we're challenging our ability to stabilize the movement as we create the controlled rotation from the shoulder. So demonstrating a piece of that, I'll slide my bench over. And then of course, we're not going to have both of our hands here for use. So I'm going to use just one hand for support. Coming into a wide-legged plank position. When our feet are narrower, we have less of a balance and stability. So because that's not my goal for this movement, I'm gonna start with a really broad plank foot position and my one arm either on my hand, or you can do this also on your elbow for a little bit more horizontal positioning and challenge. Starting with that weight at my lower back. We're moving up and overhead. Whenever I stop talking, it's because I'm working hard. Making sure that we're not collapsing from our stability arm and sinking into the bench. I'll demonstrate this same movement from the side. Nice wide stance. Reaching out towards the side of the room. And focusing on control. With these exercises, our goal isn't really to discontinue them, it's to take them with us, like we said at the beginning of the video, for a warm-up and a prevention of shoulder injuries or irritations. So after you learn them and get up to a decent baseline, you can keep them the same for an extended period of time. Even the smaller or more regressed versions are really, really helpful for maintaining and progressing shoulder function. And then little by little, either expanding your range of motion or expanding from a weight or other stability position is a great way to give yourself an additional challenge. You can weave them into circuits. You can do them completely separate at home. You can do them to finish or start your workouts. It's really take what you will out of the movement and apply it where you see fit.